Here we go again. Let's play a game. Let's see how many times we get to see Edis in this video. Because I don't even know how to do this and not make YouTube angry, but we'll try. Someone pointed this out to me yesterday and I sort of just kind of rolled my eyes at the article and moved on with my life. But then a reputable company, Kotaku, decided to speak up with great research that you expect from Kotaku. So I almost feel obligated to have to speak out again. Honestly, I'm sick of talking about Chainsaw Man Blu-ray sales, but I sort of feel like a portion of my content is sort of dedicated to putting perspective and logic to the typical clickbait that's based on partial truths, where somebody posts an article or a video or something with some logic and truth in their title itself, but they don't tell the whole story, so it sort of baits people into looking at it because the full context is not there. And it ensures that they're not lying. But yes, the article is, here we go. Edis, are you ready? Are you ready, Edis? Though Man Parody has apparently outsold Chainsaw Man anime Blu-ray sales. Here we go again. I wonder what sales they're gonna list for the Blu-ray sales of Chainsaw Man. I wonder. They state a live-action parody of MAPPA's popular shonen anime, Chainsaw Man, may have outsold the original series on Blu-ray in Japan. Two things they're already wrong in this first paragraph. That's pretty amazing. One, it's a live-action parody of the manga. Now, they probably made it in response to the anime, but it's still technically based off the manga. The second lie, well, technically not a lie because they said may, is it didn't outsell the original series. It outsold the sales reported by retail outlets that carried it, not the full number of sales. And this is where I'm getting sick of having to talk about this because everybody keeps repeating the same thing while also in a little snippet saying, oh, by the way, they did have some exclusives on their own store, so they may have sold more. You could tell I'm so tired of this conversation. They continue, So Man, a parody of Chainsaw Man by Japanese film production company Studio TMA, sold 8,600 Blu-ray copies in the first week after its April 28th release, according to Anime Explained. So, there's your source. If the parody's reported Blu-ray sales on sites Studio TMA and Fanza are true, that means it sold nearly 5 times more Blu-rays than the actual Chainsaw Man anime, which, according to Screen Rant, another source, Screen Rant knows, moved a mere 1,735 copies in its first week back in February. Again, those numbers are based on a survey. For those that just join me, sometimes there's new people here, you know, the people that maybe got the information somewhere else and they need the clarification here. There's a lot of companies in Japan that do surveys for sales. They will go out to each retail company and say, how many of these did you sell? How many of these did you sell? How many of these did you sell? And they tally up all that information from all these retail outlets and they put it into one list and they post it. And that's why often when you'll be scrolling through Twitter or your feeds or Discord or something like that, you'll suddenly see Blu-ray sales for the first week of these shows. It's a culmination of surveys. Even putting Chainsaw Man aside, these are estimates pulled together by a survey. And for Chainsaw Man specifically, that wasn't the entire picture because Chainsaw Man itself was a unique case. MAPPA fully produced Chainsaw Man. And in an effort for them to make the max profits possible, they sold exclusives on their own store. And that store didn't report to that survey, so it did not sell a mere 1,735. Yes, it may have sold crappy on their own store, but that's not the full sales numbers. Even MAPPA CEO Manabu Otsuka stated that, yes, they wanted more sales. He admits, we were hoping more sales. But it was because they were shooting for the sales that they were getting for, like, Jujutsu Kaisen, which is insane. So even he admits he wanted to sell more, but his goal was an insanely popular shonen. But even he said it was a success. So, again, 1,700 sales is not how many they sold. Their site was getting hit massively hard for pre-orders. And you could probably assume, yeah, maybe they didn't sell too much, but I'll get more into what I think they haven't reported later. They continue, for those curious, Chainsaw Man is faithful to the source material in that the parody also follows a down-and-out young man who, after reviving from death thanks to his furry friend, comes under the employ of the organization that kills devils. However, the parody took some liberties in swapping out Shinji's iconic chainsaw head and arms for oversized those while he works under the Bakama. Seeing how Chainsaw Man's actual protagonist Denji has already voiced that having is the next important milestone in his desperate existence, Studio TMA's parody isn't far off in terms of nailing his shamelessly simplistic character motivations. According to Google's translation of the parody's description, Shinji will follow his desires. Yes, Shinji is obviously twist of the name of that down there. Shinji will follow his desires, challenging the demon subjugation with impure motives. Narratively, the parody actually ventures ahead of the anime in featuring its own version of Rize, a mysterious character teased at the end of the anime's 12th episode. The 2-hour Demo Man film is the 12th live-action anime parody from Studio TMA. The cosplay film production company also worked on feature film-length parodies of the popular Jujutsu Kaisen, Demon Slayer, Makoto Shinkai's Weathering with You, to name a few. While the validity of Demo Man's Blu-ray sales may leave room for doubt, what isn't up for debate is how poorly Chainsaw Man's... Here we go, we're going right back into it, I just can't take it. While the validity of Demo Man's Blu-ray sales may leave room for doubt, what isn't up for debate is how poorly Chainsaw Man has been selling in Japan. That is not up for debate, apparently. I'm doing it right now. In comparison to other popular anime. As noted by Screen Rant. Next source. Popular supernatural shonen anime Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen sold over 28,000 and 26,000 copies, respectively, within their first week. Again, you're putting up Chainsaw Man. Why does everything have to compare to literally the biggest franchise out there? Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen are literally the biggest franchise out there. How would anyone expect it to meet those sales? And again, they had exclusives on their store. Imagine that you really like something, and this something is sold at Walmart and then sold on Amazon. And on the release date, you know that if you buy it at Walmart, it's just the thing. But if you buy it at Amazon, you'll get the thing plus this other thing that's really cool. And they cost the same. Where are you going to buy it? Amazon. That's the idea. The joke here really is there's 1,700 people that bought it from anywhere else but where there's exclusives. And it's probably the diehard fans that wanted to buy it from every store, because that's unfortunately a nasty aspect of Japanese culture and Blu-ray sales, is they will put exclusives to multiple locations. If I remember correctly, Bocchi the Rock did it, where they had exclusivities at multiple places, so it was kind of encouraging you to buy it more than one time if you're a diehard fan. Japan does this a lot. But these sales were based on the first week, according to data from Oricon, a company which reports the sales of music, movies, and other media in Japan. Oricon's data also indicates that the new anime series like Licorice Coil and Bocchi the Rock outsold Chainsaw Man with over 23,000 and 21,000 sales respectively, which I'm gonna fully acknowledge. Good on them. But again, exclusives and full data there. I'm not saying Chainsaw Man sold 20,000, don't get me wrong. They continue, although Blu-ray sales aren't the be-all end-all of anime's chances of getting renewed for another season, Chainsaw Man's lackluster sales do play a part in whether or not MAPPA will continue working on the anime. False. Wrong. Wrong. 100% wrong. Blu-ray sales are nothing in the anime market right now. Look at the chart, look at the data. Not even 2% of what the anime industry is raking in right now is from home video releases. Now, yes, MAPPA wanted it to sell more because they're getting 100% of that, and so it is significant, but 50% of it is overseas licenses. That's where MAPPA made their money. They were just hoping that they would make another little boost of money from the Blu-rays, because again, they were 100% profit from it. So if they sold, say, 20,000 copies of the Blu-ray, they would have made another $1.6 million. That's good. They wanted that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they already made over $7 million just from licensing it out to streaming platforms, a single streaming platform. They made bank on this thing. If you think which probably sold for, I don't know, what, say $30? If you think that selling 8,600 Blu-rays, making $250,000 is making them sweat? You've lost your mind. They maybe made $250,000 from this. But MAPPA, before they even released the Blu-ray, had already made over $7 million. Let's put this in perspective here. And not only that, but the Blu-rays for Chainsaw Man sold for much more. And again, they took full profit, netting them at least, based on those retail listings, $138,000. And again, that's not including what was sold on MAPPA's store. If the MAPPA store sold another 2,000, let's say, just a measly 2,000, they made more than this Blu-ray. But that still doesn't take away from the fact that, yes, there is the aspect here. People don't buy anime much anymore. Yes, there's some outliers like Bocchi the Rock, there's Liquidity Coil, but most anime fans don't buy Blu-rays anymore. But what's still thriving, and especially in Japan, is still sells like crazy in Japan. And so it's not really too much of a shock that even if they listed what was on MAPPA's store, it probably still outsold it. Because is a little more difficult to get in Japan, I guess? Anyways, continuing this article, we're gonna get through this eventually. But to take a step back here, them pointing out that their lackluster sales play a part in whether they'll continue on the anime, that is 100% false. Because even if they didn't sell Blu-rays well, they still made a bunch of money. But they state Chainsaw Man's low sales aren't lost on the anime studio MAPPA CEO Manabu Otsuka. And they're gonna totally take this out of context, I know it! In a recent interview by Japanese news site Tokyo Keizai, Otsuka addressed the anime's financial performance, saying, as far as investments goes, one could say it was a complete success. However, it didn't have the same level of impact as Jujutsu Kaisen, which we worked on right before Chainsaw Man. This leaves me feeling unsatisfied. Again, they wanted insane numbers. That doesn't mean it's a failure. It's just they didn't meet the literally one of the highest selling platforms ever. According to Anime News Network, MAPPA provided the entirety of Chainsaw Man's production costs, a rarity in the industry, and where typically a number of companies invest funds towards a work's production. They quote him again, to be perfectly honest, I wish Chainsaw Man could have reached more of the audiences that pays for home video releases, Otsuka told Tokyo Keizai. Again, his whole point there was that they wanted this market, and they didn't get that market. But it doesn't mean it's not a success. It just means that they had this expectations. If you actually go through the entire interview, it makes sense. In the interview, he talks about the fact that he doesn't want to rely on streaming services. So even though he made a fortune just from streaming it to Crunchyroll and whatnot, he doesn't want to rely on that. He wants a direct-to-fan funding. So his whole point is, when they asked him, what is your biggest fear in anime right now, and what you're doing? What do you think is the thing you should be worried about? What did he say? Streaming platforms. The whole point, and it links into this statement, is that he doesn't want to rely on streaming platforms to make his money. Even though he made a crap ton from Crunchyroll, he doesn't want to rely on them. He wants to rely on the customer. He wants to rely on the fan. And that's why he wanted the Blu-ray sales to work, because he wanted the fans to directly fund them. Now, yes, that's him technically double dipping, but it's him thinking about the future of his company. Because Crunchyroll can go away, but the fans won't. He wants the fans to have given him all that money, rather than him have to wait for Crunchyroll to pay the checks. That's the whole point of this quote. But yeah, it wraps up the article with, here's hoping that, like, search popping off around the time a video game releases, Chainsaw Man will lead to more Blu-ray sales of Chainsaw Man, because I need season 2, just as bad as I need MAPPA to get making a second season of Dore Hororo. I want that too. But no, I mentioned it earlier that I was going to get into this, and it's important. There is an element of asking, okay, so why doesn't MAPPA release the sales? And there's an important reason. It sort of links in with this. In the interview with MAPPA CEO Manabu Otsuka, he mentioned specifically that in the future, they're not going to 100% invest in everything anymore, but they want to sit on equal footing and equal investment with other production committees. And herein lies the problem. If they release their sales, it could affect future deals they make. Manabu Otsuka had to learn how to be a production committee. He had to learn how they do investments so that he could do it himself. And so now he knows full well what they want, what information works, and how to make deals. If they leave it to everybody believing that the Blu-ray sales is 1,700, what happens when they finally make Season 2. Huh. Nobody on the production committee suddenly cares about getting a portion of the Blu-ray cuts. Well, the first season only sold 1,700. I don't care about having a portion of that. Whereas if they were to release how many they sold, it takes a bargaining chip off their plate. Manabu Otsuka is not stupid. He's probably laughing that everybody believes it's 1,700 sales. While he's over here counting his money from Crunchyroll and his store sales, everybody else is fighting over how popular it was. And then what happens when the next Blu-ray releases? They may strike a deal with the other production committees that they get the full sales on Blu-rays, and then they sell another 10 to 20,000 copies. This is how companies work. This is how businesses work. The less people know, especially your investors, the better you're off when you go to bat for what you're going to get. Make no mistake, Season 2 of Chainsaw Man will happen, unless there's another property that MAPPA wants to invest in. They probably won't 100% invest into it, because I think this is a big risk on their part, and I don't think they want to keep taking big risks. But make no mistake, they made their money back. Putting all that aside, it's a dumb article. It's a dumb idea. It's funny. It's funny to think about. Yes, selling more than an anime, it makes sense technically. Like I said, technically sells. For those that haven't been around too long, know that pretty much most of technology has sort of been manipulated by... For every generation of mediums, you would constantly have this fight with different sort of technologies that were trying to come out and capture what would be the next big medium to do. You had VHS and Laserdisc and DVD, and guess what won in the end? The one that was cheaper, and yes, would be on it. Shoot, there was a big battle between Blu-ray and HD DVD. Guess which one won? The one that had on it. It always comes down to sells, and is a massive market whether people want to acknowledge it or not. But anyways, that is my, once again, talk about Blu-ray sales of Chainsaw Man. I think I'm done at this point. I don't know, maybe if something stupid pops up that I just can't help myself, I'll speak up again, but I'm so sick of talking about Chainsaw Man Blu-ray sales. It's like, why can people not get this? And it sucks because every article that I run into that keeps bringing this up always at some point links that, oh yeah, by the way, they did have some sales on their actual site, so don't worry, it's not the full sales, but we're gonna make this the article. It's so frustrating. It is so frustrating. Like I said before, most of my content is just dedicated to saying things like, no, they weren't selling a Bleach NFT for thousands of dollars. They were selling a physical piece of art that had an NFT that was on the blockchain. This is what cost the money. My videos are just kind of dedicated to stopping misinformation. Just like my top 5 lies that anime fans tell. It's fun though. It's fun. It's free content, even though unfortunately most of the clickbait stuff gets massive views and my stuff doesn't get that much views, and so it doesn't really offset the misinformation, but at least I can inform a few people. If you're new to this channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get more clarification of crap like this. Also, I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support this content more, I have a Patreon link, a tips link, super thanks, and membership button down below. It's your guys' support that allows me to keep doing this and giving you guys the truth and the information that you guys need to clarify this stuff. And it means so much to me. And with that said, y'all take care.